Hello and welcome to Everfree Radio Presents here at Everfree Network. I am your host, Brush and Bones, and today with me we have Draco.
How's it going?
And Ramble.
Hello.
And today's episode review is for Season 3, Episode 10, Keep Calm and Flutter On. In this episode, Celestia thinks Discord can be reformed, so she tasks the bearers of the elements of harmony with the job. Particularly Fluttershy, whose kind nature she feels is perfect for the situation. Fluttershy takes charge of the task with surprising gusto, and while the rest of the main six remain certain that the Draconequus is irredeemable, and Discord fights tooth and nail against the prospect of reforming himself, he soon finds himself enjoying the friendship Fluttershy offers. By episode's end, when he goes so far as to betray a promise made to Fluttershy, leading her to declare them no longer friends, he realizes just how much he values the connection, and decides to change his ways and use his powers for good. Most of the time, anyways. So, this episode raised a lot of questions, and there was a lot that we're going to have to discuss, so we're going to go point by point on this one. First point being, okay, Celestia believes that Discord can be reformed, and we don't really have a clear amount of time between the premiere of Season 2 and this episode, so we're not exactly sure how much time has passed, but I would say it couldn't really be more than a year. So, Celestia believes Discord can be formed to use his vast powers for good, only about at max a year after they resealed him into stone. What are your guys' opinions on this?
Looking back to what happened with Luna and the fact that she was banished to the moon and it was 1,000 years, the thing here is that they have the elements of harmony. With Luna, they didn't. I mean, Luna or Nightmare Moon bested Celestia, so I doubt Celestia was in a rush to take her on again. Whereas with Discord, the main six is there. They dealt with the problem. Discord got loose. They dealt with them, especially if they can set things up in advance so that he can't play the same tricks on him. They've probably got the upper hand and they should be able to best him again. So I think from a risk perspective, it's probably a lot lower. And who knows? I mean, there might be something that Celestia is getting at that I guess she didn't share with anyone.
So you don't think that it's a bit of a stretch that she'd be willing to let this arch enemy who caused tons and tons of chaos throughout Equestria have a chance to be reformed while she let her sister rot in the moon for 1,000 years?
Well, that's a little harsh.
A little harsh. And I mean, Celestia, for all intents and purposes, she's given us no reason to see her as to not see her as a benevolent ruler, a very kind and conscientious ruler. But it seems kind of weird to me that only like a year-ish or so after they defeated Discord, she's already rushing to get Discord a pardon and try to have him reformed, when who knows how many other people could have possibly served as bearers of the elements of harmony during that 1,000-year period when Luna was on the moon. There could have been plenty of options for, reform for Luna when she was Nightmare Moon, but we have no idea if that ever went on. All we know about is there was a prophecy, and 1,000 years in the future, Luna, or Nightmare Moon, the mare and the moon, will be freed.
When I first saw the season opener for Season 1, and we got to the ending and I saw the rainbow of light hitting Nightmare Moon, I immediately said, wow, this is like a bad Skittles commercial.
Bad Skittles commercial?
And I was like, God.
I was reminded of Gen 1, the G1 ponies, because they defeated the bad guy in Escape from or Rescue at Midnight Castle. They defeated him by firing the rainbow of light at him, and in that one they just outright disintegrated the guy. In this one it would just purged the evil from her.
It's a plot device, magic, timey-wimey stuff, no definitive answers.
But I'm just more curious as to, so you think that Celestia thinking Discord can be reformed isn't an unfeasible plot?
It isn't unfeasible, but the way that they did it seemed more like a two-parter that they should have done. I mean, it
does seem rushed, yeah.
It's not uncommon for series like Samurai Jack or Symbiotic Titan mid-season to do a two-parter episode because it has a huge plot.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And I would honestly probably agree. Like, I actually think that the premise is very interesting, although the way they go about it is kind of iffy here, just because The idea that Discord can be reformed, I mean, his name is Discord. He's a Draconiquus. He's this physical embodiment of chaos and disharmony. His powers, as far as we've been able to see what little we did get of him during the Return to Harmony two-parter in Season 2, shows him to be at least, equal to Princess Celestia. And yet, you think that, oh, well, if he's the embodiment of chaos, then they kind of have to, enforce order upon him, put him into stone, that sort of thing, or else he'll just run amok. It kind of felt to me like a sort of, you can't change a leopard's stripes situation, where if he's naturally prone to chaos, if it's kind of like his thing, something he's born to do, there's not necessarily any change for it. And they kind of make sure to say in this episode a lot, like, you use your powers for evil and we want you to use them for good. And it's like, well, no, he's not necessarily using his powers for evil. He's just causing tons and tons of chaos. It's kind of like, if you're like me and you've ever played any kind of tabletop role-playing game, Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder especially, you're familiar with the alignment system. And there's two separate sides to that system. You have law and chaos, and then you have good and evil. And then there's also neutral in each of those situations. And you can be lawful evil, or even chaotic good, or you can be lawful good and chaotic evil, or neutral, And Discord always seemed to me like the quintessential chaotic neutral character. He was pure, unadulterated chaos that was just doing whatever he pleased because he had the power to do it. And he makes things silly because that's his prerogative as what he is.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when we first see him, when he's corrupting the main six, there's this elaborate game with the maze, and he takes away some of their powers. And with Fluttershy, he gets more and more frustrated, and then he outright kind of bops her on the head, and she's corrupted now. He didn't have to do that with... he chose not to do that with any of the other main six. What he chose was these elaborate little setups that kind of twisted their elements against themselves, and he didn't have to go through that trouble. And yeah, it was completely set up solely for his enjoyment, for his entertainment, because that's what he does.
When Season 2 opened up and we saw the maze and him get frustrated and change the rules and try to break the rules, he seemed like a bad dungeon master. just like a really bad dungeon master. He gets mad at the players. He puts impossible tasks in front of them. He pits them against each other, and he's just like, you know what? Screw the rules. You're whatever now.
The scene with Fluttershy really did kind of have that feeling like a dungeon master feeding you these opportunities to do something, and you're just totally not getting it, and you're just totally not taking the bait. And it's like, you've been kind for far too long, my dear. Time to be cruel. Arrivederci.
Yeah, and really, that's not evil, childish maybe, but
it seems more just childish and selfish. Just I'm doing this solely for my own benefit and entertainment.
Well, what does that make Angel Bunny then at this point?
We can't get on the subject of Angel Bunny because he's touchy, and my comparison for Angel Bunny causes this whole thing to get. We would go on a rant that would take way too long, and our director would not approve of it because it would not fit within our spectrum of what we are trying to accomplish here.
That aside, what did you guys think about Discord coming back?
I actually was looking forward to the return of Discord because I always love John Delancey. Really, really great guy, really great actor and voice actor. Any opportunity to have more time listening to him and seeing Discord in action is great. But I think the problem really here is with the execution. Like we said before, the premise isn't unfeasible, and it could have been done if they'd have approached it properly. But I think that the way they went about it with this one short episode wasn't the best way they could have gone, and I think they could have done better. I know that the writers at Studio DHX, I know that the writers there, and they have the talent to have made something like this really grand and awesome, and I think they kind of went for the easy road, the low-hanging children's cartoon fruit.
Well, you're limited with a 21, 22 minute runtime, and I have nothing intrinsically against the concept of reforming a character, but I think at its core, what frustrated me is their choice of character and them picking one who is pretty much defined by their actions. Discord is Discord because he causes chaos. It's his name, right? I think if you wanted to do just off the top of my head here, just simple character switch. I know not everyone liked this character. Maybe some hated them, some didn't consider that memorable, but drop Discord. You want to do a reform or an episode about second chances? Bring back Gilda. You could still swap out Fluttershy with Rainbow Dash. I know Rainbow Dash has had a lot of episodes, but her element is loyalty. This is an old friend. I'm sure none of the main six would be in a rush to go and be like, give her a second chance. But I think there's a lot of interesting things that could be done there. And then I could see that being believable because Gilda isn't this super omnipotent not evil, but chaotic force. She's just a jerk.
I can see where you're coming from with that, but I also kind of have to agree that the idea of a reform, while it might have been decent with other characters, we've also kind of already had a reform episode. And that was Magic Duel, where we get to see Trixie again. And I mean, the entire episode isn't focused on, of course, reforming Trixie. So there is a major difference between the way that the two episodes are executed. But by the end of the episode, Trixie is, she's repenting all of her past sins. Oh gosh, I didn't mean to make that pun.
Well, there it goes.
And she's a better person because of the events of it, and she's a good guy now, so to speak, at least in a way, and then she falls on her face and everybody laughs. But I think there was more issue with the fact that they decided to do this episode and it went in the obvious direction of, oh, well, who's most likely to reform an evil being? Well, only the most adorable and kind-hearted pony in the entire group, Fluttershy, of course.
Well, no, going back to what I said before, Fluttershy is the only one that Discord couldn't trick into becoming corrupted. I mean, she's the only one that actually stood up against what Discord was doing.
Well, I can see that. It's mostly just the fact that I'm kind of starting to see that there's a lot of focus episodes on ponies that I think could use a little less focus, because there are plenty of ponies out there in the main six cast that could use a bit more screen time.
We've said before, it's nice when they do episodes that focus on their elements or things like that, and Fluttershy's kindness. I think that for this, she was the right choice for a number of reasons. And yes, it's more of a Fluttershy-centric episode, but I don't think that the focus was to make another Fluttershy-centric episode. It just...
Well, the focus was Discord, obviously.
Right, and the Fluttershy was necessarily the pony that they chose.
She was the tool, yeah. So, Draco, what about you?
I mean, we knew this was coming. Like, over the summer, John dropped that big spoiler bomb up in Calgary. I mean, it's something we knew about for a long time. We just thought it was going to be like an intro or a season ender. We didn't know it was going to be in the middle somewhere.
A lot of people were hoping that it was going to be like all of the villains from the past seasons are going to team up in the final episode or final premiere or something similar to that.
Yeah, pony combat.
Even on the two-parter, having too much going on, I could see them running into a risk of it seeming rushed. But so when I first, heard Discord coming back or the reforming thing, for me, what I guess I was secretly wanting was, like a two-part episode or kind of the season ender, where, to me at least, this seemed a bit more realistic. The main six need Discord. It's not, we're going to try to reform him for some nebulous thing in the future. And it gets around that issue of, why are they trying to reform him now? If they had made it, they need him now. And why would he help them? Because he needs them now. Because this is a common foe. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend thing. And I would like that because that's, you're not necessarily battling evil demons and things. There's times where you have to work with people you don't like, because otherwise...
You're talking about the whole enemy mine scenario where there's a situation that both of you need help to overcome. Neither of you like each other, but it's kind of forced on you.
Oh, there's a lot of stories that do that, though. I mean, you can look through, like, Marvel or DC. Marvel, they have Wolverine working with Deadpool and a few other people from the Weapon X program. Their names are escaping me for the time being. And then you have Batman working with the Joker. sometimes. And I can see where you're making that link where, the main six kind of need Discord. It's kind of like saying, Joker needs Batman or the Joker is nothing.
But I think it's what kind of, the whole harmony versus Discord situation is that in order for there to be harmony, there has to be Discord, because there's always two sides to the coin. There's always, two halves to the yin yang. I can totally see that. I can see that.
The problem that came from the episode for me when it came from who it centered on was Fluttershy just seems a little naive. I don't think she's like so much innocent, because that stare is just plain outright. But she's a naive little fool at heart, and it's just it seems like that they put it on her to give her some growing up. And by like the episode end, you find out that Fluttershy was basically using him while he was using her to make sure that he was doing good.
How do you say that she was using him?
Nah, see, I don't know if I would agree with the idea that she was...
She said that she knew about everything that he was doing, that she was just playing along.
The thing about that, though, is it really doesn't feel like that come the end of it, because... honestly speaking, if you need all 6 of the main 6 to interact in order to turn him to stone, and you need that power and stuff like that, by her swearing not to use her element of harmony against him, he's completely free. He gets off completely scot-free. He will not be able to be turned to stone, because Fluttershy has made this promise, and if she is intent on keeping that promise, then there is nothing that can be done. And the only reason by the end of the episode that he reforms is because he realizes how much he values the connection that having a true friend, the only friend he's ever had, in his own words, really means to him after he's lost it. And that might have come across a bit stronger if, like we mentioned before, they'd had more than the 22 minutes time slot of a single episode to get it past.
This definitely feels like a 40-minute episode at best, just because it took way too long to even get a story like this to go through the first time. And then it was done and over with in 22 minutes. It just felt like you're building up, and in the last 5 minutes it's just rushed.
I agree. There wasn't enough build-up because it just kind of went bam, because you get, what I should say is that there was plenty of build-up, but at the same time, there wasn't enough actual, focus on how much Discord liked the relationship. They did showcase, oh, I'm actually having fun with this, and this is actually kind of nice, and, stuff like that. But most of the time, everything was played with kind of like a double meaning. Discord is totally playing Fluttershy. He completely ruins the whole dinner party because he's doing exactly what the main 6 is saying he's doing. He's totally toying with them and being a general nuisance while putting on this mask so that Fluttershy thinks that, oh, he's doing very well. But when all's said and done, you spend most of the episode thinking he's totally playing her, and by the end of the episode, he's going to get off scot-free. But it's the magic of friendship and the realization that he likes having a friend that makes him say, oh, well, you know what? Never mind. I'm not going to be evil, despite the fact I could totally get away with it.
Well, I think the progression in the episode actually works fairly well. I mean, from the get-go, yes, Discord is from the beginning is playing Fluttershy. He admits it, and to Angel. But for what happens later in the episode and at the end of the episode to really work and not just be a cop-out or something poof, they're friends at the end, is Fluttershy needs to show Discord courtesy and trust and other things that you would show a friend for her when she says later that it basically says he's my friend, to be believable and to have any impact. Because if her actions to that point didn't fit with what she's saying, then it doesn't work.
Well, it's the honesty and the trust. The honesty and the trust that she put in Discord was something that he realized, wow, that kind of, she was being totally legitimate, and it was actually kind of fun and stuff like that. But I just think that it could have used more time to develop, because the premise is definitely a good premise, and I honestly think this would have had I think it would have had a great opportunity to be something amazing had it had, more than just the 20 minutes that it did. I think that it had the potential to be amazing, and it turned out okay.
It happens over the entire episode, though. It's Discord's crash course on friendship. Compassion and trust. At the end, it's that which leads to Fluttershy saying, yes, okay, you're my friend. I'm not going to lock you back up in stone. Discord abuses that, and he sees the repercussions of those actions.
Well, see, but that's just it, though, is he sees the repercussion, but throughout the entirety of the episode, you are given the idea that he doesn't care. The whole sudden weight of it, just kind of crashing down on him all at once, is... it's acceptable, and that's why it's an okay episode. It's not a bad way to end the episode. And of course, you got to remember it's a show for children, so it's easier if it's done that way or whatever. But when you're taking it from the critical perspective and you're looking at it the way we look at it and we analyze it and stuff like that, it would have felt more believable if Discord, being the way he is, he betrays Fluttershy and goes on a rampage for who knows how long, and the main six is all going, Fluttershy, what have you done? We can't do this unless you join us. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then as he's committing these acts of evil, like more than just the flooding of the farm, going back to the whole like Ponyville's going to become the chaos capital of the world, everything's going insane. And meanwhile, all the time he sees Fluttershy not acting because she made a promise and he was her friend when she made that promise. And even though their friendship is over, she's going to keep that promise because she's good to her word. Then he can realize, that's really powerful. That's really amazing that she would do something like that for someone like me. And then the realization can sink in. But it all happens so suddenly at the end, He floods Sweet Apple Acres from the very beginning, He's got those beavers working on the dams, because you see that right at the beginning when he's released. They turn their eyes red and they're damming up the river. And Sweet Apple Acres is flooded. And then, you promise me you won't use your element of harmony against me, and I will, and I'll change this. And he changes it to ice. And then he's totally gloating about it. And then just all of a sudden she shouts, I am not your friend. And he's like, oh, you think that I would change just because I lost the only friend I've ever had? And all of a sudden it hits him. I think if that had been more gradual, if he'd have gone back to being evil on a grander scale, and the main six are all trying to tell Fluttershy, you gotta help us, we gotta reseal him, and it's like, no, I'm not gonna do it, that would have been more impactful. It would have really shown Discord how strong a promise to a friend is. I think we should get word from Draco, because we've been overshadowing him here, and he hasn't said much.
That's okay. I'm just kind of sitting back. It's like, really, to be honest with you, there's really not much to say. It's really a lackluster episode. I mean, there's been a few parts where I just, kind of cackle and laugh. Mainly when Discord actually gets out and he actually starts stretching. He snaps his fingers a couple times, and a bunny and a squirrel all become bodybuilders of like the 10th degree. And the squirrel has a nice little love mom tattoo on his right arm.
Well, there were a lot of really great funny stuff. There were great references, stuff like the fact that he eats the pages of the reform spell. Oh, that reminds me, we have to sidetrack for a bit because I have to talk about this, okay? There is a spell in the Friendship is Magic universe that can forcibly reform somebody, can forcibly change them. And they spend a certain amount of time in this episode looking for it, but Discord has eaten the pages of every book that had the spell in it. And that's why he was eating paper in the episode. And I'm sitting here thinking they have a spell that is that morally questionable, that morally gray, in this world, in this universe. First off, why is that spell in the hands of magic students like Twilight Sparkle? Second off, if that spell exists, why didn't Celestia use it on Luna or any other number of evil people, such as King Sombra or Queen Chrysalis or, so on and so forth?
Well, I can see Celestia using it on, I personally couldn't see it, but, when Twilight went crazy in Lesson Zero, big ball of light. You don't know exactly what that light was. It could have been the reforming spell.
Well, that was just a flourish. She was just teleporting in, trying to make a big showy effort because she was putting on that whole mask of stern teacher to teach Twilight a lesson,
Mad because she got interrupted eating cake. But it's one of those things where, like, I could see where they have a use for it, because you get ponies like Pinkie Pie going absolutely insane.
Yeah, but at no time did they ever really become evil. It's like, even with Pinkie Pie. Pinkie Pie got really weird and introverted and all, the lank hair one time, and it was just because she thought that her friends hated her and didn't want to hang out with her anymore. This whole thing, the whole purpose of reform in this instance, as stated by Celestia, is to make Discord go from evil to good. To use his powers for good instead of for evil. And that's why they were looking for the reform spell. They were literally like, the normal way isn't going to work. We need a shortcut. Oh, there's a spell that I have that could do it. Let me go find it.
Because ponies, why not?
The plan was to put him back in stone, but they needed Fluttershy on board. So I think the plan B was more, if Fluttershy is not going to get on board and we can't reform him of his own free will, okay, it's a MacGuffin, they don't use it, it's just there. I can't get hung up on it.
No, but I mean, you gotta ask about the morality, because, of course, it's a kid's show, so they're gonna look at it in black and white, good and evil. Forcibly turning an evildoer in any children's show to the side of good is never looked at as morally wrong, except from people who are adults and understand that there's a lot more gray in the world. It's never so clear-cut as good and evil. So when you look at it from our perspective, adults watching the show, and you see that, if Fluttershy fails doing the normal route, and we can't put Discord back into stone, we're gonna brainwash him instead into being a loyal, obedient, good little Draconiquus.
But they didn't, so it's okay.
No. Saying they didn't do it, but it's okay, doesn't change the fact that they were thinking about doing it, dude. The fact that they even considered forcing a change on someone's mind is pretty morally questionable. And they would have done it if Discord had not eaten the reform spell.
Yeah, Jedi mind tricks, that's all I gotta say. But I would expect Pinkie Pie to be more obstinate about reforming Discord than anyone else, because, she literally said, the only thing that he did wrong was he didn't bring whipped cream to the chocolate rain party.
Not a single dollop of whipped cream! Not one dollop!
She goes and gets her hooves mirror shined to where Rarity can actually see herself in them. And her only comment is, "There's no whipped cream! Oh my god!"
Well, and I honestly, that brings us to another point, is that throughout the entire episode, the rest of the main six, Fluttershy is the only one who believes 100% that she can definitely reform Discord if she's given the opportunity, and if things go the way that she's got it all planned out, things will be perfectly fine. Meanwhile, the rest of the main six are like, dude, we gotta have a contingency plan, because there is no way this is gonna work. They are so steadfast in their belief that Discord cannot be reformed that they go, they even go so far as to think up stuff like the reform spell and stuff like that. And I really don't know if we got a good enough amount of exposure to just how much this particular event affected them too. Because we see them when they're looking for the reform spell, and before Discord shows up, and then we see them at the dinner party where Discord's goofing everything up. And they keep telling Fluttershy, he's playing you for a sap. And she's like, no, he's a good little Draconiquus. I'm making progress.
There is a good progression in the characters, though. At the beginning, when Discord first comes to Fluttershy's place, Twilight's saying, like, are you sure you're okay with this? We'll be here if you need us. Just, whisper help. And later on, as things are progressing, the house is spinning around and Twilight's saying, well, it's what Rainbow Dash at the dinner. Rainbow Dash is like, can't you see what's going on here? And they're visibly upset, and Fluttershy keeps saying, oh no, this is okay. And at the end, they almost give her an ultimatum, commanding her, no, Discord has to go back. This is getting completely out of hand. It's over. And even though you don't see the characters much, it's not like it's not a flat tone. There is change.
Yeah, they aren't really flat.
Given, the time constraints and everything, I think that's about as much as you could ask for. And speaking of progression, it happens with Discord too, because at the beginning, he just turns a couple animals around. He ends up in Fluttershy's place, and he reforms the lamp as a Discord lamp, and then it turns into...
That lamp is going to be for sale within days, within weeks. Someone is going to make that lamp and throw it up on eBay.
Oh, you know it.
Get on it, Chaotic Brony. We know you're watching.
And then the house is spinning around, and he's eating paper, and then you have the dinner party that's this perverse Beauty and the Beast vibe from that, with the candlesticks and the soup tureen and all that, and...
He's dressed like a butler the entire time.
Yeah, and then at the end with what happens with Sweet Apple Acres. And so there's good progression in a lot of the elements that they have, whether it's the characters or various plot points. And so that's effective there. They're not just kind of selling the same tone throughout the entire episode, and then boom, at the end, Discord repents, as it were.
I mean, it's in every anime series or cartoon series. There's repenting villains and whatnot all the time. I mean, you got Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z. You have Kurabara in Yu Yu Hakusho, who becomes Yusuke's best friend.
I don't know if you could count Kuwabara as a villain who redeems himself, because he's Yusuke's...
Well, not really a villain, anti-hero.
He's Yusuke's rival, to be sure, but he was always heroic from the get-go. Like, he had that stereotypical delinquent style and look, but both him and Yusuke were delinquents when it came to being in the school, but they had heroic spirits.
I guess villain's a broad term. Not really villain. Anti-hero more like it, because, you got Deadpool, because he's an anti-hero. He's not necessarily a villain. He can be good sometimes. He just does whatever he wants to do. It's more of a fact that, he goes against the hero sometimes, and sometimes he doesn't. And it's in every animation, every story just about, there's an anti-hero.
I don't know if I could consider Discord the same sort of way, but like I said before, I find the premise completely plausible if they had had more time. I think that this would have made a great two-parter. As it stands, I think that the way that it was executed made it okay instead of great. One last question before we get on to our scores, and that's, where in all of this time has Luna been? Because you'd think, first and foremost, we get mentioned that there's a royal summit, okay? And that's why Celestia can't be present for the whole reform of Discord, because she has to go meet at this royal summit. And that's all we know about it, is it's a royal summit. So obviously, we're probably got politicians and businessmen and all sorts, or business ponies and all sorts of other stuff going on. Maybe it'll be something that plays up towards the season finale or something like that, where we actually get to see some more representatives from other countries. Maybe we'll get to see more griffins or dragons or, other various different creatures throughout the thing. But we know that there's this royal summit, and that's where Celestia is going to be. But why do we never get to see Luna during these Discord episodes? We now had 3 episodes, one a two-parter, of course, the Return to Harmony segment, where all this crazy stuff was going on. Luna was nowhere to be found. And then come this episode, when Celestia's like, oh, I want you to reform Discord and all this other stuff, we still don't get to see what Luna's opinion of the whole thing is. What was Luna's opinion on the whole Discord reform? Did she think Discord could be reformed? Did she want Discord to be reformed? Did she even care? Was she in her bedroom playing the Dead Space 3 demo the entire time?
I don't know. Maybe Luna was busy with the Royal Summit.
She might have been, but we still haven't seen her at very many royal events either. For example, Grand Galloping Gala? Kind of a big deal. No sign of Luna.
Well, it did happen at night. I mean, you gotta give her that. I mean, she's on patrol, invading people's dreams.
Invading people's dreams. I don't know. I mean, it seems like they never seem to really put Luna out there unless it's important to drive home some kind of little plot piece. They brought out Luna for the premiere in this season 3, to add mystery to this whole test that Celestia has devised for Twilight Sparkle. And at the end of the episode, she pulls out this book that's all black, covered in stars and swirls, and you don't know what it is, but that's all you see of it. And then you don't see Luna again until the episode with Scootaloo, and you find out, oh, she has the power to enter Pony's dreams, which is really amazing power, but really weird at the same time. And, you see her then. But during all these other situations, we only got to see her once during the season 2 finale when she swaps out for Celestia when night comes. But you never see her do any battle with the changelings, you never see her there protecting the kingdom. And maybe she sleeps the entire day. I don't know. But it seems like they only pull out Luna when they need to pull out Luna. And I think that Luna might have been nice just to have her opinion on this whole situation, because she was once a villain. And the idea of reform isn't so foreign to her because she had to be reformed, although it was, by purging the evil from her with the Rainbow of Light. But that would have really been a nice little thing to add. And it could have probably been done if we'd have had 2 episodes instead of just 1.
I've got it. I figured it out. CES was the same week that this episode aired. She was at CES. Really, she was late to her own sister's wedding. Who does that? I don't care if you sleep all day normally.
No. Cadence isn't their sister. At least not so far as we know.
Adopted sister, Crystal Pony. You know what? Yeah, ponies.
Okay, well, one other thing, and I actually remembered this now, was what do you think that they even want Discord's magic for? Because it seems like Celestia has some kind of plan. This episode, she really wants to be able to use Discord's power for good. Is there a reason for that, or is she just like, oh no, he's just really powerful and it would be nice to have that on hand, just put it on the back burner in case we need it? Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, sort of thing?
From a strategic point of view, it makes sense, because if anything like Chrysalis comes up again, very easy to deal with at that point. But for like a practical view, best bouncy house ever. Most chaotic bouncy house with ball pit, everything. I could totally see Discord doing that. But as far as like a strategic point of view, you gotta look at it. She's a princess of a land, an entire country. Strategically, you want something like that under your belt, even if you can't control it.
Well, looking at what's left for the season, I really don't see anywhere where I could see Discord making a comeback. There might be something in the future, but that would be completely pure speculation. Although, if I had to go and throw my money in, I'd say, because Celestia has this very kind of wholesome and motherly vibe to her, and so naturally there are certain things that I don't think would reflect very well on her if she were to carry them out. So frankly, I think she's just looking for someone to carry out Wetworks projects for her.
You think that she wants Discord to be her Black Ops guy?
Yeah.
That or her rival biker gang.
That would be hilarious. All right. So we finally come down to it. We've talked about what we wanted to talk about with this particular episode. Lots of questions, not very many answers, but a little bit. So on the whole, what would you rate this episode? 1 being the worst, 5 being the best.
I'm going to say a 3, mainly because, 1, it was nice to see John back, but on the same point, not really much was done except for Discord reformed. Other than that, it's nothing else basically happened. It all just revolved around Discord the entire time. There was no Ponyville mishaps, nothing going on throughout the day other than Fluttershy and Discord spending some time together. Other than that, it's just from the same writer that gave us Too Many Pinkie Pies, this could have been a lot better.
Okay, Ramble, what about you?
Well, first off, I want to say that Beaverton Beaverteeth is a fantastic name for a beaver. When I first saw the episode, I was really mixed. It was a lot different from what I was expecting, but I really shouldn't let that dictate what I'm going to rate it. Although I'm going to have to put this episode at 3.5. And the reason for that is there's a lot of really good content to it. And that's, from the character's point of views, you could agree or disagree with Fluttershy's approach. Should Discord be trusted? Can he be trusted? And it's interesting that we've had issues of trust among friends, like the green isn't your color, keeping a secret, but those are worlds apart from trusting a stranger or someone whose motives are unclear. My concern here is that there's a line between optimism and delusion, and this episode treads dangerously close along this line. Treating everyone like friendship will solve all your problems or can convert someone who might have malevolent intent is not realistic, and Discord's very sociopathic tendencies, to me, I'd have to go with the main six and say, yeah, I don't think even it's worth attempting reforming this person, because at what point can you trust them when all their motivations are about jockeying for positions of control? That being a kid, and people are like, oh, you're looking too much into this is a kid show, this is a kid show. I don't necessarily think that this is a lesson to teach children. If they had used someone other than Discord, yes, okay, I can see that. But they used Discord for this lesson, and I think that applying what this episode is teaching in a lot of situations, people are going to get burned. And so 3.5 just purely on artistic merit. There's some great jokes there, but from the moral standpoint, I think it's good, but it treads too close to...
It treads too close to being a poor Aesop, a broken Aesop even. I can see where you're coming from with that. I would probably, and people are going to berate me for giving it a lower score than Apple Family Reunion, but I would have to give it a lower score. I love John Delancey. I love Discord, and there were some great joke material in here. Great stuff. There was even at least it seemed like it was a reference to Star Trek when Q says, "Hi, Worf. Eat any good books lately?" And later on in this particular episode, Discord is eating pages from a book in order to get rid of the reform spell. There was tons of great jokes, tons of great little references and stuff like that. But I really think that while the premise of this episode was good in theory, I think it was executed very, very poorly. There was a lot of ways that this episode could have been great, and it turned out okay. I think that my score is also a 3.5. I think that it's enjoyable, but I probably wouldn't rewatch it. And it probably had some of the most, like you said, the closest thing to a broken Aesop that we've seen in the show, especially, and even at the very end, you have that very forced line out of Discord. At least I felt that it was very forced out of Discord's mouth when he title drops the series by saying friendship is magic, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's all well and good, but it might have been better if the episode had more time to really work with that whole thing. The writers are capable of delivering better than this, and it felt like they went and they grasped the low-hanging children's cartoon fruit here by going with taking the easy road to Discord's redemption. And I think that really hurt the episode overall. And there were so many questions that were left unanswered. As an adult and a critic, I have to question stuff like the moral ambiguity of a spell that can forcibly reform people. I have to question the idea of putting somebody as naive as Fluttershy in charge of the reform of this character. You have to question why Discord would let Fluttershy's friendship get his goat all at the last moment, as if like he just never realized what he was doing, when throughout the entire episode it seemed like he was just completely playing her for a sap. So overall, yeah, 3.5. The episode had a lot of potential, but the way it was executed here turned out a bit more of a waste. So with all that said, thank you for joining us. I'm sure that there are plenty of you who disagree. If you want to leave your comments, go ahead, leave them on either our website at everfree.net or here on YouTube. You can feel free to email us as well. We have all of our information on our contacts page at everfree.net. Share your opinions, vocalize your concerns, and odds are it will still not change our own opinion, but everyone is free to have theirs. Thank you for joining us here on Everfree Radio Presents at Everfree Network. I've been your host, Brush and Bones.
I'm Draco.
And I'm Ramble.
And we will see you next time here on Everfree Network.
But the way that they did it, it seemed more like a two-parter that they should have done. I mean, this...
It does seem rushed, yeah.
It's not uncommon for series like Samurai Jack or Symbiotic Titan mid-season to do a two-parter episode because it has a huge plot.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And I would honestly probably agree. Like, I actually think that the premise is very interesting, although the way they go about it is kind of iffy here, just because the idea that Discord can be reformed, I mean, his name is Discord, he's a Draconiquus, he's this physical embodiment of chaos and disharmony. His powers, as far as we've been able to see what little we did get of him during the Return to Harmony two-parter in Season 2, shows him to be at least, equal to Princess Celestia, and yet you think that, oh, well, if he's the embodiment of chaos, then they kind of have to, enforce order upon him, put him into stone, that sort of thing, or else he'll just run amok. It kind of felt to me like a sort of, you can't change a leopard's stripes situation, where if he's naturally prone to chaos, if it's kind of like his thing, something he's born to do, there's not necessarily any change for it. And they kind of make sure to say in this episode a lot, like, you use your powers for evil, and we want you to use them for good. And it's like, well, no, he's not necessarily using his powers for evil. He's just causing tons and tons of chaos. It's kind of like, if you're like me and you've ever played any kind of tabletop role-playing game, Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder especially, you're familiar with the alignment. Hello and welcome to Everfree Radio Presents here at Everfree Network. I am your host, Brush and Bones, and today with me we have Draco.
How's it going?
And Ramble.
Hello.
And today's episode review is for Season 3, Episode 10, Keep Calm and Flutter On. In this episode, Celestia thinks Discord can be reformed, so she tasks the bearers of the elements of harmony with the job. Particularly Fluttershy, whose kind nature she feels is perfect for the situation. Fluttershy takes charge of the task with surprising gusto, and while the rest of the main six remain certain that the Draconiquus is irredeemable, and Discord fights tooth and nail against the prospect of reforming himself, he soon finds himself enjoying the friendship Fluttershy offers. By episode's end, when he goes so far as to betray a promise made to Fluttershy, leading her to declare them no longer friends, he realizes just how much he values the connection, and decides to change his ways and use his powers for good. Most of the time, anyways. So, this episode raised a lot of questions, and there was a lot that we're going to have to discuss, so we're going to go point by point system. And there's two separate sides to that system. You have law and chaos, and then you have good and evil, and then there's also neutral in each of those situations. And you can be lawful evil, or even chaotic good, or you can be lawful good and chaotic evil, or neutral, And Discord always seemed to me like the quintessential chaotic neutral character. He was pure, unadulterated chaos that was just doing whatever he pleased because he had the power to do it. And he makes things silly because that's his prerogative as what he is.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when we first see him, when he's corrupting the main six, there's this elaborate game with the maze, and he takes away some of their powers. And with Fluttershy, he gets more and more frustrated, and then he outright kind of bops her on the head, and she's corrupted now. He didn't have to do that with he chose not to do that with any of the other main six. What he chose was these elaborate little setups that kind of twisted their elements against themselves, and he didn't have to go through that trouble. And yeah, it was completely set up solely for his enjoyment, for his entertainment, because that's what he does.
You know, when season 2 opened up and we saw the maze and him get frustrated and change the rules and try to break the rules, he seemed like a bad dungeon.
Point on this one. First point being, okay, Celestia believes that Discord can be reformed, and we don't really have a clear amount of time between the premiere of season 2 and this episode, so we're not exactly sure how much time has passed, but I would say it couldn't really be more than a year. So, Celestia believes Discord can be formed to use his vast powers for good, only about at max a year after they resealed him into stone. What are your guys' opinions on this?
Looking back to what happened with Luna and the fact that she was banished to the moon and it was 1,000 years, the thing here is that they have the elements of harmony. With Luna, they didn't. I mean, Luna or Nightmare Moon bested Celestia, so I doubt Celestia was in a rush to take her on again. Whereas with Discord, the main six is there. They dealt with the problem. Discord got loose. They dealt with them, especially if they can set things up in advance so that he can't play the same tricks on them. They've probably got the upper hand and they should be able to best him again. So I think from a risk perspective, it's probably a lot lower. And who knows? I mean, there might be something that Celestia's getting at that I guess she didn't share with anyone.
So you don't think that it's a bit of a stretch that she'd be willing to let this arch enemy who caused tons and tons of chaos throughout Equestria have a chance to be reformed while she let her sister rot in the moon for 1,000 years?
Well, that's a little harsh.
A little harsh. And I mean, Celestia, for all intents and purposes, she's given us no reason to see her as to not see her as a benevolent ruler, a very kind and conscientious ruler. But it seems kind of weird to me that only like a year-ish or so after they defeated Discord, she's already rushing to get Discord a pardon and try to have him reformed, when who knows how many other people could have possibly served as bearers of the elements of harmony during that 1,000-year period when Luna was on the moon. There could have been plenty of options for, reform for Luna when she was Nightmare Moon, but we have no idea if that ever went on. All we know about is there was a prophecy, and 1,000 years in the future, Luna, or Nightmare Moon, the mare in the moon, will be freed.
You know, when I first saw the season opener for season 1, and we got to the ending and I saw the rainbow of light hitting Nightmare Moon, I immediately said, wow, this is like a bad Skittles commercial.
Bad Skittles commercial?
And I was like, God.
I was reminded of Gen 1, the G1 ponies, because they defeated the bad guy in Escape from or Rescue at Midnight Castle. They defeated him by firing the rainbow of light at him, and in that one they just outright disintegrated the guy. In this one it would just purged the evil from her.
It's a plot device, magic, timey-wimey stuff, no definitive answers.
But I'm just more curious as to, so you think that Celestia thinking Discord can be reformed isn't an unfeasible plot?
It is an unfeasible